Welcome to Brighteon Broadcast News for Wednesday, May 3rd, 2023. I'm Mike Adams. Thank you for joining me today. And we are on the verge of the next phase of the banking collapse in the United States. Earlier today, well, yesterday, by the time you see this, 3 additional banks were halted in trading in the stock market. Those banks are PacWest Bancorp, Western Alliance, and Metropolitan Bank. Now, just the fact they were halted in trading, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to collapse, but it is a strong indicator that they are collapsing and people are taking their deposits out of those banks. And of course, JP Morgan just recently taking over First Republic Bank in the second largest bank failure in U.S. history, as the consolidation of these banks in the hands of JP Morgan, i.e. the small banks going into the big banks, continues to accelerate. And by the time this is all done, there will be no small or medium-sized banks remaining in America, probably just a half a dozen big complicit bank giants that will then collude with the federal government to push CBDCs. So today I'm going to give you some homework, actually. I know, it's like you needed something else to do. But seriously, some very critical steps that we all need to take in order to be nimble in moving funds around through various things. You've got to set these up in advance in order to survive what's coming. You're going to have to also move in advance of the masses. And that's why it's critical to stay tuned to independent media like this show, Brighteon Broadcast News, on Brighteon.com. But also be sure to check out my website here, censored.news. Let me refresh that. And this is where I will be posting breaking news about bank failures. It's not on there today, but as things really begin to unravel in real time, I will post it on censored.news. You can also check out my Telegram channel, which is Real Health Ranger on Telegram, or you can find me at brighteon.social with the call sign @HealthRanger. I'm also on Getter, and I'm also on Truth Social under the same call signs there, usernames. Elon Musk is still banning me from Twitter for some reason, so I'm not on Twitter. So if you want to get straight up alerts from me, use those platforms I just mentioned, or just check censored.news, or sometimes headlines on naturalnews.com. So we're now entering an emergency phase of the banking collapse. The acceleration of the collapse is now underway, just as I promised would happen. We're probably going to see 3 or 4 more banks fail in the next couple of months. There will be more bank failures over the summer and even more by the end of this year. With every bank failure, the FDIC has less and less money available to bail out these banks. In fact, I'm not sure how much they have left right now. I think they started the year with $125 billion, but they've already issued many tens of billions of dollars in bailout money during these bailouts, including the one that just happened, First Republic. And it begs the question, if every bank that fails requires another $10 to $20 billion from the FDIC, well, we're only a few more bank failures away from the FDIC being broke. At which point, you have to ask the question, where's the money coming from to bail out these other failing banks? And I guess technically they would just declare an emergency and print the money. They would print the money to bail out the banks that are failing because they're printing money and raising interest rates. Oh, and by the way, there's another interest rate raise probably happening this week, probably 25 basis points. So now we're beginning to see what can turn into hyperinflation eventually, not immediately. I want to be clear. It can turn into hyperinflation. The Fed has a choice to make. If they continue to print money to bail out the banks, then the currency will be devalued at an accelerated pace. Although it could still take quite a while for hyperinflation to kick in because there's a lot of M2 circulating money in terms of global dollars. On the other hand, if they don't print the money and they just let banks collapse, which would be the free market thing to do, by the way, then you're going to have a contagion of bank collapses that will absolutely crater the US economy, and it will contract the debt markets so that there's no more available debt for business expansion or business operations. That contraction would result in thousands of business bankruptcies across the country, which has already begun, of course, but it would get far worse under that scenario. So the Federal Reserve, frankly, the Treasury with them, are in such a tight spot, they can only choose between hyperinflation and economic collapse. And how much you want to bet they'll figure out a way to do both. So you'll get collapsing currency and you'll get massive collapse of the domestic economy. That is what is coming. And again, I'm saying this on May 3rd, 2023, for those of you who want to keep track. More bank failures are coming, more dollar devaluation is coming, more money printing is coming. This situation is going to get way worse in the months ahead and the years ahead. So let's get to the homework. What can you do? What must you do right now, urgently? I'm going to focus on, let's see if maybe I don't have the right props for this. Let's talk about financial literacy and mobility. You need, in order to survive this, you need to be able to move your funds and assets very quickly in and out of different vehicles. If you've got something worth protecting, a retirement fund, some money put away for a rainy day, maybe some gold, maybe some dollars, maybe just a bank account. You've got a checking account, probably. You've got money in there that you probably don't want to lose. And maybe you own some stocks. Maybe you have, a retirement fund. I don't know, an IRA somewhere or a Roth IRA, whatever it is. You need to be nimble to be able to get in and out of all of these things. So here's your homework. Number one, if you haven't done it already, I want you to go out and I want you to set up at least 3 bank accounts. At least one of those bank accounts should be, believe it or not, with one of these big banks like JP Morgan or Bank of America or, Chase or whatever, Wells Fargo, the big ones. Even though they represent the globalists, I'll explain why you want to have at least one bank account with those banks. The other bank accounts should be with smaller or mid-sized regional banks. And there's a very important reason for that. When you set up these 3 bank accounts, I want you to make sure that you wire money out of each one of these banks, even if you just wire it to one of your other banks. And the reason I want you to go through this process is because you need to have wiring literacy or familiarity with the process of those banks, and you need to make sure you work through any problems so that when the day comes that you have to move your money out of one of these banks, you already know the process and you don't have to call customer service and ask a bunch of questions because you won't be able to reach customer service on that day. When it hits the fan that day and the subsequent days, you're going to need to know how this works. So again, set up at least 3 bank accounts if you don't have them already. Wire money out of each of those 3 accounts. I know it's going to cost you a few dollars in wiring fees, but just do it. Learn how to make ACH withdrawals or deposits in each of those banks. Many banks, you can set up transfers between the banks. So maybe you can set up a transfer between your, JP Morgan bank and your local regional bank where it's an automated transfer. Well, in order to set that up, normally they will make 2 small deposits in your target bank, and then you have to log in and see those deposits. You've probably done this, and then you have to enter those in the sending bank, and then that establishes a connection. And from there, you can move money between those banks just using their online portals. But there's a daily limit. And a lot of those banks have a daily limit of like 5,000 or 10,000. Those limits are going to get smaller and smaller. And this is why you need more and more options to be able to move money in and out of banks. The second thing I strongly encourage you to do is make sure you have an established relationship with a gold and silver retailer. This can be any retailer that gives you an honest deal, that treats you right. Of course, we have our sponsor that I mention from time to time, the Treasure Island Coins and Precious Metals Company, but they're not the only ones out there. So work with a gold and silver retailer that you're comfortable with. If you want to work with Treasure Island, their website, you can get to them through metalswithmike.com. It doesn't pay me an affiliate commission on sales, by the way, but they do sponsor my podcast. But find a gold and silver retailer that you like, and then make a purchase. Make some purchase, even like 1 silver coin if you want, $35 or whatever. Make a purchase so that you are an established customer, and take delivery so that you work out all those kinks in that process. Like, how are you going to get delivery? What's the carrier? The tracking number? Is it the correct address? Do they accept your credit cards? Is everything cool? Is everything working? And if you can, make an even larger purchase so that your credit card is not going to be rejected as a result. Okay, third thing I want you to do, this is, again, more homework. I want you to set up an account at privacy.com. They are not a sponsor. but they are an online company that issues you temporary credit card numbers that you use just like Visa numbers. And when you spend money on that Visa number, then they deduct the money via ACH out of your bank account. But the listing in your bank account transactions just says privacy.com. It doesn't say how you use the money. It doesn't say what you purchased. But privacy.com has been working. I've been using it for, I don't know, 9 months now or something like that. It's a really great website. Again, not an affiliate, not a sponsor. They're not even aware I'm mentioning them. But go to privacy.com. You have to link them to your bank account. And then you can get all these credit cards, credit card numbers that are issued to you for your use that are tied to your bank account, I should clarify. Now, the reason this matters is because there's going to be food rationing that comes down. There's going to be efforts by the government to track who's buying gold and silver, by the way. And if you want to buy gold and silver using a credit card, maybe for a smaller amount, you want some privacy behind that. So privacy.com would be the best place to have that, where the transaction in your bank account statement it does not say that you bought gold and silver. It just says privacy.com. And I think you can pay a small extra fee at privacy.com, and you can have it say it's like Bob's Hardware Store or something like that. I forgot the exact thing. So if you want to say Bob's Hardware Store, you can do that. Same thing with purchasing ammo. And this is another homework item for you. You need to set up an account to purchase ammunition. And if you want to see all the available ammunition websites, just go to ammoseek.com, and you can look up any ammo you want, and they'll show you all the retailers and all the current prices and everything. Ammoseek.com is a great website. I like to work with MidwayUSA.com, Brownells.com, and Palmetto State Armory. There's also the True Shot Gun Club, but they don't have a big selection. They do have good prices. There's a lot to choose from. I want you to set up an account at an ammunition supplier and make a purchase using your privacy.com credit card number so that you're making essentially a private ammunition purchase. Now, again, just to be clear, I'm not encouraging you to do anything illegal. This is simply about protecting your privacy to engage in legal purchases of legal goods. So if you're in California, I think you have to have ammo shipped to an FFL, and then you have to go in and do the FFL thing to even get your ammo, which is one more reason to move out of California, by the way. But if you live in a free state, such as Texas or Tennessee or wherever, then you can just order your ammo and they'll ship it to you. I want you to establish this because you may need more ammunition for community defense, self-defense, or national defense if we get an invasion taking place, which seems increasingly likely. I've covered that in other podcasts. The CCP, working with the drug cartels, working with the UN migrant camps, massive flood, massive invasion is about to take place as the border goes wide open. I mean, there's a lot of details. But you need to have an established ammunition retailer that you have an account with, where you can place orders and they will ship to you without flagging your orders as something's wrong here. So you need to establish all those things beforehand. Just use privacy.com to get that done. Okay, next thing you need to do, if you haven't done it already, you need to become competent in cryptocurrency. Now, understand my background is I've always warned people against speculating in crypto, and I'm not asking you to speculate in crypto. What I'm saying is crypto has utility in being able to have rapid international electronic transactions, and certain types of privacy coins are impossible for authorities to track, unlike Bitcoin, which is easily tracked because it's an open blockchain. So in privacy coins, and there are some different privacy coins to choose from, like Monero, and I'm doing a deep dive into several of these coins, including Epic Cash and Monero, and Zcash is out there, but I don't like it because it's usually not private, by the way. You have to force it to go private, but you get the idea. There's different privacy coins. You can also just hold Bitcoin for now if you want, and then move it into privacy coins and spend some transaction fees. But my point is, become competent in this. I want you to understand the process of downloading and installing a wallet on your mobile phone, installing a wallet on your desktop computer. One of the wallets that I recommend is called Exodus. They're not a sponsor. I don't know if it's exodus.com or exodus.org, whatever. You can find it. It's the Exodus wallet. and that's a wallet that you run on your own desktop or your phone. I want you to go through the process of setting up that wallet. I want you to write down your seed word phrase. I think that's 20 words or 25 words. That seed word phrase is your vault. You can recreate your wallet on any other computer in the future just from memorizing those seed word, the words, the 20 or 25 words. If you can memorize those words, you have your wallet in your head, and you can actually, if you're a refugee, if you're fleeing war, if there's a nuke that dropped on your city and everything's destroyed, as long as you make it out alive with the information in your brain, you can recreate that wallet. And with that crypto, you can still have it, even though the government may have seized dollars. Or the banks may have had a giant bank freeze or bail-ins. They took all your money. Crypto can't actually be stolen by the government, especially privacy coins, because they don't even know you have them. So I just want you to be competent in this, okay? Have a wallet. Also have an online gateway that you use to translate fiat into crypto. And there are a bunch of them to choose from. You know, there's like Gemini, and there's Coinbase, which I don't really like. There's Binance, which also I don't necessarily like. There are others like CoinStore. I think it's coinstore.com. That's outside the United States. If you can establish a relationship, I think there's KuCoin, there's a bunch of them. Establish a relationship with an exchange where you have an account, but where you don't necessarily need KYC information, know your customer rules, where you could still purchase smaller amounts in an emergency, okay? So that you know how this works. And then I want you to buy something like $10, just buy $10 worth of Bitcoin if you want, and then transfer it to your wallet. And then know how to send it to another person's wallet, or have a wallet on your phone and have a wallet on your laptop and send it from one wallet to the other wallet. You're going to need these skills. Trust me, you're going to need these skills with what's about to happen. And I will tell you, I'm going to go ahead and release this. We are working on a project right now. We're going to accept crypto for payment at the Health Ranger store. So when the dollar collapses and the banks are frozen, the only customers that are going to be able to get food from us for some period of time, if the banks don't work and merchant services don't work and the credit cards are down, guess what? Crypto will still be able to make those purchases at that time. And this is why I'm encouraging you to have all of these options. You need to be competent in gold and silver. You need to have multiple bank accounts. You need to have some literacy of being able to function in cryptocurrency. You need to understand wallets, buying and selling, and also translating one kind of crypto into another kind of crypto. You need to know the difference between privacy coins and Bitcoin, because Bitcoin, everything's tracked. You don't want to use Bitcoin to actually make your purchases. Bitcoin can be kind of like a bridge between other cryptos, but you use privacy coins to make your purchases if you want your purchases private. And also use privacy.com right now, which can help protect. That way, if you buy ammunition, it doesn't show up on your credit card statement. Oh, you just bought $5,000 worth of 9mm or whatever, And that's not a bad idea right now, because prices are pretty decent at the moment for a lot of ammunition. Probably some of the best prices you're going to see for quite some time. All right, so what have I left out here? Let's see. Banks, privacy.com, crypto, gold and silver, online wallets, exchanges, crypto translation. Okay, here's what's going to happen. The dollar is going to continue to lose value. The banks are going to suffer more and more failures, to the point where there will be a bank freeze, I believe will be nationwide. When that happens, and combined with that, I forgot to add, if you speak out against the Biden regime, you might be penalized and not allowed to access your bank account. Just like what happened in Canada with Trudeau and the Canadian truckers. If you donated to the Canadian truckers, they seized your bank accounts, folks. So if you make donations to a cause, let's say a pro-life cause, and the government doesn't like it, they may seize your bank account. If you don't vote for Biden in the next election, they may seize your bank account. If you are opposed to child mutilations in the transgender community, they may seize your bank account. If you say that you think the Pentagon might lose the war against Russia, oh my gosh, they're going to seize your bank account. You see, if you say anything that they don't like, if you are opposed to the vaccines, they can seize your bank account. They can't seize your privacy coins. They can't seize gold that they don't know where you hid it, where you put it. I mean, they can demand that you hand it over, perhaps, but they can't just take it. You know, a lot of government confiscations are just out of convenience on the part of the government. If you have money in a bank account, they can just see it, oh, just seize it, boom, and the bank complies, done, it's gone. Oh, and that's also why when I mentioned the 3 banks, you need one bank like JP Morgan because that bank is always going to be bailed out. You need smaller banks so that you have fewer restrictions based on environmental social scores, the ESG system or the social credit scoring system. And you need to be able to move money between those banks depending on the situation. You also need to understand that in order to move money around, and again, this is all perfectly legal. I don't encourage you to do anything illegal. This is not about, you know, the kinds of things that Democrats do. They engage in money laundering. They engage in tax evasion. I'm not saying any of that. You know, I'm saying still file your taxes, you know, obey the law, don't commit fraud. I'm just talking about privacy and mobility of your funds. But in order to move your funds around, money that's yours, you know, you've already paid taxes on it. It's your savings account, whatever. You need to start early because you can only move small amounts each day. And you need to understand there are going to be hold times on different types of things. So for example, if you deposit money with, let's say, a Gemini or Binance because you want to buy crypto and you use an ACH transfer, they can hold that money for, 10, 11, 12 days before you're really allowed to transfer crypto out of that platform. Whereas if you use a wire transfer, they may only hold it for 2 business days. So you need to understand the difference in what moves quickly and what moves slowly. Where are the delays in the system? You also need to understand that if you're translating Bitcoin into something like Monero, there are going to be more delays on that. It's going to take perhaps an hour or a couple of hours, whereas other privacy coins are faster. And I know Epic is working on a much faster protocol to transfer money within just seconds, by the way. So that's not out yet. That'll be interesting. I'm keeping an eye on that. But you need to be able to move as quickly as possible, but understand that there are daily limits. So you have to act early. And this is why this is not a time to sit back and just say, oh, let's see what happens. I think it's all going to be good. And all the bailouts will kick in soon. It's going to be fine. I don't think so. I think you're going to lose everything if you sit back with that kind of attitude. You're going to lose freaking everything. You need to start early. You need to diversify, I believe. Again, I'm not your financial advisor. That's my disclaimer. Do your own research, get your own advice, do what's right for you in your circumstances. But in my opinion, you need to have a diversification strategy that is outside the dollar. You need to understand the dollar's losing value. You need to understand the US banking system is collapsing right now. It's not a theory, it's actually happening. And you need to understand that if you don't have mobility, you are screwed. You are royally screwed in this situation. And mobility means being able to move into other forms that hold value: gold, silver, crypto, ammo, land, food, whatever the case may be. Other bank accounts, smaller banks, mid-sized banks, maybe, I don't know, overseas banks. Of course, there are reporting requirements involved, obey the law, but you can have access to that if that's something you want to do. You might want to buy other foreign currencies, by the way, and reduce your risk to the US dollar currency. That's not a bad move either in some cases, but do your research. And I wouldn't buy the euro. That's just my take. I wouldn't buy the euro. I wouldn't buy the yen. I wouldn't buy the dollar. I mean, well, I don't have time to go into it, but there are a lot of other currencies that are doing a lot better than Western currencies right now in the world. So just understand the playing field here. And you're living in a country where most people are utterly oblivious, and they don't have multiple bank accounts, and they don't have ways to move money back and forth. They don't know about privacy.com. They don't know about different privacy coins in cryptocurrency. They don't know about gold and silver. They don't even own any gold. Most people don't own gold, if you can believe that. It's crazy. How could you not own gold right now knowing that the banks are collapsing? With the 3 additional banks that are defaulting was just traded on the stock market, We've already had 4 banks collapse this year. If these 3 collapse, and I'm not saying they will, but they're on the path to that, that will be 7 bank collapses in the United States. And the Fed is about to raise rates, which is going to cause more banks to collapse. If we end this year without a dozen bank collapses in the United States, I'll be shocked. I'll be totally shocked. We're going to have, it's almost guaranteed we're going to have at least a dozen banks collapse in the United States this year. I mean, we're almost more than halfway there right now with the banks that are already in, a worrisome territory. So those who have the knowledge and who take steps in advance, you are going to do very well. You're going to be mostly okay. Your assets will be safe, but you've got to understand the risks. And yeah, you can have some cash too, by the way. Some amount of cash makes sense because when the banks close and the ATMs close, you could probably still use cash for a few days to go get groceries, before the zombie mob attacks the grocery store and loots the place, depending on where you live. Once the zombie mob comes out, grocery store is a no-go. That's when you have to rely on your stored food. And by the way, let me plug my store, come to think of it, healthrangerstore.com. Let me show you what we have. Macadamia nuts, certified organic, Mac nuts, it's that bag right there. Macadamia nuts, certified organic, lab tested for all the stuff that we talk about, heavy metals, glyphosate, aflatoxins, you name it. That's brand new. They're delicious, they're beautiful, and they will fill you up. Let me tell you, I was snacking on those last night. I was like, oh my God, I'm full. Cashew nuts. We've got coconut milk powder. We've got almonds. These are raw, non-fumigated, non-irradiated. And all of this is lab tested, including for aflatoxins. Healthrangerstore.com if you want to take advantage of this food. We've also got Ranger buckets here. We have these in stock right now. And again, hundreds of servings. We've got 2 pails in a set, minimum 365 servings per pail. Look at what's in there. All certified organic, shipping out right now from our Texas facility, available to you. We packed it. We did the quality control. We did the lab testing. This is going to be the ultimate barter item also. It can feed you and it can keep you alive in terms of barter. This is just one of the things that we believe the government's going to crack down on. They will limit food purchases at some point here as the rationing kicks in, as the collapse accelerates. So maybe you should go set up an account with privacy.com and then order from the Health Ranger store using that method. Or when we start accepting cryptocurrency, again, we used to accept it, but the third party that used to work, actually, they imploded or they took themselves offline, basically. They got threatened by the Justice Department. So we are building our own code to accept certain types of crypto. When that comes back online, you can buy from us using crypto, by the way. So there are lots of different ways to do this, but you need competency in all these areas. That's my opinion. All right, the other thing I want to show you here, go to camera 1. Do you see this axe and my Rubiks Cube? This axe right here, this is something else that has tremendous value. We are about to roll out a series of custom products that are in conjunction with Dawson knives. And this is a MagnaCut alloy tool. This is a lifetime tool right here. MagnaCut means it's incredibly corrosion resistant. And it has a Rockwell hardness that is really impressive. It holds an edge, it's hard, but it's also flexible, which is what makes edges really amazing. This kind of tool will be invaluable in a collapse scenario. And we're gonna have new options for you, by the way, coming up shortly, where you can actually acquire survival gear that is American made, that is extremely high quality, extremely durable, that will be the ultimate barter items, along with food or gold. People need tools, and they will need tools that they can rely on, because the age of buying cheap throwaway crap made in China that you bought at Walmart, that's coming to an end, because the global supply chain will collapse once we're in a war with China, which is probably coming. So you have advanced knowledge of this. And I mean, we're blessed to have this advanced knowledge. God has given us a gift of being able to see what's coming. And it's not hard to see this. It just takes courage to stand up and recognize the truth. You have an opportunity right now at very low cost to go out and do the things that I just mentioned, the homework assignments. You go out and open those bank accounts. You open, you get familiar with cryptocurrency. You install a wallet. I mean, that's free. You can send yourself $1 worth of crypto. Understand how to do these things because you're going to need those skills. You're going to have to move quickly. Make sure, again, you have a gold and silver, retailer that you can work with. Otherwise, you will be at the end of the line instead of, at the front of the line when it comes time that you want to buy, whatever amount of gold and silver because the whole system is cratering. So that's my critical advice today. I mean, there were other stories breaking, but nothing is as important, in my opinion, compared to what I was just telling you. Now, I do have an interview coming up here with Dr. John Witcher, who's running for governor of Mississippi. And I think you're really going to enjoy that interview. I'll probably have a special report for you also in audio. So all of that is coming up. Okay, so I want to show you, I've been making a lot of progress on the Rubik's Cube. I've been learning from Jay Perm on YouTube. And here we have the first 2 layers solved, which I did earlier. That's the F2L method, part of the CFOP. Oops, I'm screwing that up. The last layer needs to be solved. And as you can see, the last layer is yellow, and there are some algorithms for this. So let's just see how this comes out. Okay, and that ends up with, there we go. And oh, that's solved. I didn't even have to permutate any of the centerpieces. But if you do have to permutate the centerpieces, let's see. Right there, that's how you move some of these centerpieces around like that. And if I want to get those back, there we go. Those are back in place now. So with a little bit of practice here, I encourage you, if you want to learn the Rubik's Cube, go to ruwiks.com. That's RUWIX.com. Let me bring up that website here. Hold on. All right, if you go to ruwiks.com here, you click on, first you can go to the easy solution here. And this shows you how to solve it in the easy way, which is not what I was just doing. I've been training in the CFOP method, which is here. CFOP, which is the advanced solution. And what I just showed you was called orient last layer and permute last layer. So you see all the yellow stuff there? These are the orientations and permutations of the last layer. And you have to, of course, memorize all these here. Well, here's the permutations of the last layer. You see where you have to move all these around? How crazy is that? But let me just give you an example of this. If you want to move like this corner and that corner, if you want to swap these 2 corners, there's actually, oops, gosh, there's a way to do that. And that's it. So these 2 corners just swapped, as you can see, and these pieces also swapped. And then if you want to swap them back, you just do the same thing. And then, oops, I kind of screwed that up. And so now I need to swap these centerpieces and these centerpieces, and there actually is. This is a really fun permutation to do. I like this one because it looks fun. And then, boom, that's done. So that's what that one looks like. It's a lot of fun. I strongly encourage at any age, learn some speed cubing, learn to do the Rubik's Cube. It's a lot of fun, keeps your mind and your fingers active. And I've really enjoyed learning the CFOP method over these last few months. And hopefully I'll get faster at that, less clumsy with it. But I have like big rancher hands, like all these Rubik's Cube kids, they have little alien fingers. It's wild. There's like long, skinny fingers and they're small. And so to them, like this cube totally works. I need a bigger cube. I need like ranch hand size Rubik's Cube. This thing's tiny. I can just crush it. It's gone. I need a bigger cube. How come they don't make cubes for real men? You know what I mean? Like country ranch people need a Rubik's Cube for them. Like rough and tough, large Rubik's Cube for speed cubing for ranch hands. How about that? Or am I the only person who lives on a ranch that actually does speed cubing because I'm just that nerdy? I don't know. It's your vote, you decide. We're going to move forward with the interview here with Dr. John Witcher. He's running for governor of Mississippi, and I think you'll really enjoy this conversation. That's straight ahead right here on Brighteon Broadcast News. Welcome to today's interview on Brighteon.com. I'm Mike Adams, the founder of Brighteon, and today we are joined by Dr. John Witcher, who is running for governor of Mississippi. And John Witcher agrees with probably all of you watching about health freedom and about investigating the corruption and fraud that we've all been exposed to over these last few years. and he is challenging the governorship in order to bring back honesty to medicine and banking and finance and justice to not just the people of Mississippi, but to set an example for all Americans. His website is witcherforgovernor.com. That's spelled out F-O-R, witcherforgovernor.com, and he's running for the governor of Mississippi. Dr. John Witcher, it's an honor to have you on, sir. Welcome to the show today.
Yes, thank you, Mike. Honored to be here with you.
Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy campaign schedule to join us, but let's start with the basics. You want to give people a quick overview of why you're running for governor of Mississippi?
Yeah, Mike, I've been a medical doctor here in Mississippi for 25 years. I'm born and raised in Mississippi. I've been here all my life. My mother is from Yazoo City, my father from Tupelo. I grew up on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. I started a company as a young doctor, Mississippi Physician Services. We staffed multiple hospitals throughout the state with ER physicians. I'm a general practitioner and ER doctor. When I was, I know Mississippi well, its healthcare situations in a lot of these little rural towns. When COVID hit, I was working at a small rural hospital in Yazoo City. I was the medical director there of the hospital. And we started treating COVID from day one. And, we started treating patients with hydroxychloroquine, vitamins, vitamin D, and azithromycin, zinc, the Dr. Zev Zelenko protocol, actually. And I think many of us doctors were using that. And then, of course, when Trump mentioned it, it was shut down. Our hospital, the pharmacist came to me and said that we could no longer use hydroxychloroquine to treat these patients. I pushed back. I continued to do it until the higher-ups basically sent out and said, well, you can't use hydroxychloroquine with COVID patients. And so anyway, I did stop, and shortly thereafter, of course, they pushed the remdesivir onto us. I was not a fan of remdesivir. We all know that in the Ebola studies, 50% of people died. And so remdesivir was a very toxic drug, but of course it was a Dr. Fauci drug. But I went along with the program as best I could, trying to take care of my patients in the hospital, watch over them closely. We did not intubate patients at my hospital. We didn't have an ICU unit. So if they had to be intubated, they had to be transferred. So I did my best not to intubate patients. And then of course, the vaccines got rolled out, Operation Warp Speed. I voted for Trump, but I was, I'm concerned about it. I was concerned then about the Operation Warp Speed being able to push out vaccines that quickly, even if they were vaccines, which we know now they changed the definition of vaccine. They're basically bioweapons, as we all know. But the point was Trump is still saying, he's saving 100 million people by pushing these vaccines out. So I know many people have talked with him, and I just hope and pray that he'll come forward and just admit what happened, that Dr. Fauci and many of those guys really duped him. But anyway, I was against the vaccines. I would not, I couldn't give informed consent. So they wanted me to have all the hospital employees and the people in the hospital get vaccinated. Wanted me to give the orders, and I said, I just can't do it. I don't know. I can't give them informed consent, and I can do no harm. I don't know what the risks are. So all that got me kind of on the bad list. And finally, we brought Dr. Peter McCullough to town. He spoke to a lot of folks. We invited all of our politicians there. At that point, this was later in 21, and Peter McCullough was saying these vaccines are not fit for human use at that point. Yes. And certainly by that point, I was seeing vaccine injured patients. And so I was very concerned. We reached out to all of our politicians, our governor, who was my neighbor before he was governor. And I voted for him, campaigned for him, but I couldn't get his attention when all these lockdowns and mandates started coming out. He just deferred all things to our Dr. Fauci here in Mississippi, Dr. Thomas Dobbs, who was our health state officer. But he wouldn't push back, and so so here we are today.
So Dr. Witcher, I think then you must be acutely aware of the economic damage that has been caused to the state of Mississippi by some of these devastating policies and the pushing of lockdowns and masks and the pushing of vaccines and also ventilators in hospitals. But it's not just an economic cost, it's a human cost too, because everybody seems to know somebody who died during the last few years. Can you speak to both the economic and the human cost of all of this?
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. I mean, the economic cost, when these mandates were rolled out, there was essential businesses versus non-essential businesses. Many of these non-essential businesses were smaller businesses, and many of them didn't reopen. And so, yeah, there was a big loss there. Of course, when these vaccines started being mandated all across the state, including our hospital settings, we pushed back. That's when we formed a Mississippi Against Mandates, my wife and myself, and we grouped other doctors, nurses, healthcare workers, and many citizens throughout the state. And we started pushing back. And we helped a lot of people get exempt from the vaccines. We ended up having to give them religious exemptions because they wouldn't accept medical exemptions. But many folks here in Mississippi didn't get exempt. They were fired. They had to quit. And so many of these people don't have their jobs. And, we're concerned about that. We want to look at those folks. Our governor is asking for his job back for the next 4 years. What about these other folks in Mississippi? And so that was a big economic burden. Of course, we know the schools being closed, the children being masked. There was much more damage done there than good. These masks don't work. We all know that. And so, but even more tragic than just economic loss, and that's personal loss. These patients, yes. Like I said, I'm treating vaccine injured patients. Many of these patients are very chronically ill. I can roll off a whole list, but strokes, neurological problems, severe autoimmune type disorders. I have a patient that was in her mid-30s. She's now in a wheelchair. She has kind of like a transverse myelitis, or really don't know what it is. It's kind of an inflammation of the whole nervous system. And so many folks here in Mississippi are suffering. They're heading towards being on disability if they're not already. And these are from these COVID vaccines. Also, many folks, we had over 13,000 people die in Mississippi with COVID. And I say with COVID because, we know that patients generally don't die of COVID. They die with COVID. They usually have 3 to 4 comorbidities. And many of these patients did not have to die. We had early intervention drugs that were used that helped these patients. We have one doctor in Mississippi who's on our board on Mississippi Against Mandates, Dr. Robert Corcoran. He treated over 10,000 COVID patients right here in Mississippi, up in the Delta, with many very sick patients with a lot of comorbidities, obesity, congestive heart failure, diabetes. He treated over 10,000 of them with early intervention drugs such as ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, vitamins and supplements, and none of them died. Zero.
Yeah, that's extraordinary.
So, yeah.
Look, I've got a lot of questions for you. Let me ask you though, first, by the way, what is that stop sign that's behind you on the wall? We can't quite read it. What does it say?
Well, that's our official logo that we started. It says Stop Vaccine Mandates.
Ah, okay.
That was Mississippi Against Mandates, and you can go there and find us still with msagainstmandates.org. That's a 501c3 organization that we started back in 21. And it was to push back against the vaccine mandates. We were mandated in our hospitals all across the state. Either we get vaccinated or we lose our jobs.
Yeah.
So that's when we started that organization.
Okay, now let me ask you a few other things, because I see also, of course, you have the Christian cross there on the wall, and you're wearing it on as a lapel pin here as well. On your website, you talk about that you're fighting the woke agendas of critical race theory, ESG, trans, and the World Economic Forum. You're against the NWO. You're against drugs and crime mandates, socialism and communism. I think, our audience is thrilled to hear that, because all of those things are anti-human. All of those things are anti-America. They are anti-justice and so on. But, it's not we don't often hear candidates for governor in any state talking about how they oppose these issues, because there's so much pressure from the globalists to embrace these things. So how is it that you are able to just speak the truth and say that these things are wrong, and say you are pro-faith, you're pro-family, you're pro-freedom, you're pro-Second Amendment, and so on? I mean, you're not holding back. I'd like to hear about that.
Yeah, we're a grassroots organization. I'm calling on patriots if I'm going to be governor of Mississippi, it's going to be because of the patriots and we the people. I don't have any big interest donors to my campaign. They're not gonna support me because, like you said, I'm an outsider. I'm going straight after the whole agenda. We see you can look at any of it. This medical tyranny were lockdowns that were unconstitutional emergency orders that were pushed down from the federal government and locked us down, locked the churches down, businesses down, schools down, even hospitals. The hospitals should have never been closed. We should have never locked loved ones out and let patients die alone.
That's right.
This was, a tragedy. And then we see, but we know who's, it's really bigger than Biden. It's the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates, all these folks. The World Health Organization, of course, is an entity of the United Nations. We have to push back. We know ultimately what these folks want. They want everything. They want to take America out. They don't want us to be a country, and they want to take our everything away: our families, our freedom, our guns, our babies. They push abortions. The American Medical Association is bought into this whole New World Order and this whole global agenda as well. Very radical liberals that are controlling healthcare.
That's right.
So we see that also in the educational system. The public educational system is not about parents having the freedom to choose what they want. It's about them ramming wokeism down the throats of Americans. And many folks, including right here in Mississippi, we just don't believe that the division of this whole LGBTQRS, whatever you want to call it, agenda, this transgenderism is what America, what we believe in. This is a fringe radical ideology. It's a religion, really. And so they're pushing an agenda to destroy the family unit.
Well, and they're also, though, I want your comments on this, they're destroying modern medicine as well, because, the way that I'm sure you were trained, and I've known a lot of doctors in my professional career, they were all trained based on real physiology. There are differences between men and women. Obviously, there are hormonal differences, reproductive differences, differences in upper body strength, and so on across the board. And yet now we have medical schools in America, and again, I like your comments, that are teaching doctors to play along with the delusions of men who think they're women. And so men will be coming into an OBGYN clinic and saying, I need you to, examine my cervix or whatever. And the doctor is now ordered to play along with the delusion. How did we get to this point? And what do you think of that in medical schools now? How insane is that?
Oh, it's total insanity, Mike. I mean, I have two children that just graduated from the local medical school here. And it's a liberal agenda. The AMA controls all public medical schools in the United States of America. You don't get into medical school without going through the AMA. And, in the future, near future, if you're not totally woke, if you are, say, a Christian, white, medical, someone that wants to get into medical school, you're probably not going to get in, regardless of how smart you are. And this is what's occurring. That I was just at a conference this weekend with Dr. James Thorpe. You probably know him, the OBGYN from Florida down there that's been fighting back. He put up studies from the ACOG, the American College of OBGYN, that referred to men or pregnant. It's not pregnant women anymore. It's a pregnant person. This is what they're putting on on their research papers. Yeah, it's totally crazy. I mean, the American Medical Association and all the boards and right on down, even to the state level, are pushing that men can have babies.
Well, but if they keep pushing this, I mean, obviously there can be a tremendous amount of harm if a doctor treats a biological man as if he were a woman because he is delusional and thinks he is a woman. But also there's a whole new angle in this, which is, I think it's called trans ableism, of people self-identifying as those with severe physical handicaps, such as being unable to walk, and they identify as someone who is, let's say, even a quadriplegic. And where this is going is that some of these individuals will demand that doctors amputate limbs that are perfectly healthy because that is their self-identity, is as a person who has, as an amputee. And, doesn't this put doctors in an impossible position, that if you're going to go along with the woke, you have to start cutting off people's arms and legs?
Well, unfortunately, Mike, I think many of these doctors out there don't care. I mean, they're already mutilating children, and this whole these sex change clinics where they mutilate them, give them hormone therapies,
Right.
and we have one right here in Mississippi. Believe it or not, we didn't even know about it till a few months ago. We had a transgender striptease show in our park here in Jackson, Mississippi,
Wow.
and and we had grown men stripping down to their G-strings, and there were parents out there with children, and so we looked at that. We found out the people that sponsored there were many sponsors. There were banks, et cetera, but there was one big sponsor, a teen clinic they called it. Well, we looked it up. We didn't even know it. This was the end of last year, but our one teaching academic medical school, state funded, federally funded medical school here in Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi. They had a clinic there where they were doing sex changes on children. So we were able to pass a law this year that says no doctor in the state of Mississippi can do any transgender mutilation surgeries or hormone therapies on anybody under 18 or they lose their license. So we're pushing back. But yeah, Mike, I mean, these surgeons out there and these doctors, I mean, unfortunately, many of them don't care. All they care about is it's big business is really what it is.
Well, let's shift gears here, but yeah, thank you for your answer on that. And we are living in truly insane times, and the medical industry is being occupied and overtaken. But if you were governor of Mississippi, talk to us about your energy policies, because of course Mississippi is a strong energy state. And under Trump, Mississippi was actually, doing very well in terms of energy economy. The nation was doing well. We were energy independent. Under Biden, then canceling pipelines, canceling oil exploration, canceling everything. We are now once again starving for energy. What would you do for the energy sector and infrastructure in Mississippi for the local economy there?
Yeah, here in Mississippi, we have a lot of energy sources. We have a lot of natural gas. And so, Biden has stopped production of a lot of things around the country. And that's just, we see our gas prices going up. We see so many things that are harmful. And we want to bring back and make sure that we are self-sufficient here in the nation and here in Mississippi. We can also bring a lot of things that back to Mississippi that are made in Mississippi. A lot of things have been shipped over, but yeah, we want to be energy sufficient here in Mississippi. We can do that.
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. And the thing that strikes me about the people of Mississippi, it's a lot like the people of Texas where I live. They are able to adapt. They have courage. They can overcome, but they need to be given an environment, an infrastructure in which to operate in order to do that. Like no one can get ahead if your hands are chained behind your back and you're not allowed to conduct a business. So, Mississippi, like a lot of states, like Louisiana, like Florida, like Texas, we've got to have the legal structure in order for entrepreneurism to succeed. Your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the government's too big. There's too much red tape, too much regulations. We have to lower taxes as well. And, we tried to get no state income tax like Texas and Tennessee and Florida. That did not pass, but it needs to pass. I mean, of course, we need to do it the right way. Tennessee, we believe, has a good system in that they have no state income tax, but they also have low property taxes. So we have to structure those laws have some permanent laws in there to make sure our property taxes don't go up. But this is something we need to make sure we do across the board. With this runaway inflation that we have now, spending, our federal government just, printed $6 trillion out of and spread it all over. The economy our dollars are worth less. Our 401ks are dropping. And so, we need to have some relief on the ground with these folks. And we can do things like, we can look at baby items, for example, diapers, et cetera. We can have no taxes on those for those people. We want families to come to Mississippi. We want hard-working, God-loving, country-loving patriots to come to Mississippi. And they are. My wife's a real estate agent. Many of them, of course, are going to Florida, Texas, Tennessee, but they're coming here too, and we can promote Mississippi, the great resources we have. We have a lot of land, abundant. low cost of living, and we invite all hardworking young families to come to Mississippi.
That's a really good point. I want to comment on that. But first, let me give out your website again, witcher4governor.com. I've got it up on my screen here, and you've got a lot of videos there where you lay out your positions on the economy and health freedom and so much more. It's Dr. John Witcher, MD, for Mississippi Governor. Witcher for Governor, and that's spelled out F-O-R, for governor.com. And yeah, we've seen a lot of people, of course, fleeing the Democrat-controlled cities and states of America. California, Oregon, Washington, Illinois, New York, they're just losing people like crazy because who can function in those states, or especially in the cities of those states? Who can function? So you're right, Dr. Witcher, they're going to Texas, Florida. I hear a lot of people going to Tennessee. But as you say, Mississippi is another destination. If I were a parent right now raising children in America, I would want a pro-family state where I knew my children weren't going to be indoctrinated into some kind of twisted, grooming, pedophile public school system, which is what you get in California and Oregon. And I mean, not all the parts, but a lot of the parts of those states, you get that. So I think you're absolutely right. Mississippi can be an excellent destination, and Mississippi has a lot of natural resources. You got a lot of energy, like we said before. You've also got a good food industry there, a lot of local food production, a lot of manufacturing. You've got proximity to other major cities in order to get supplies and also to be able to distribute things. I mean, there's no reason why Mississippi can't be economically very, very strong in the years ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I agree 100%, Mike. I mean, we have so many resources. We have lots of crops. Of course, our number one industry is chickens, believe it or not. And we have lots of chicken, where we breed chickens, et cetera. But also number two is soybeans, and we have lots of corn production. But we have a lot of agriculture is our biggest thing we have going. A lot of forest industry, and so but we want more. We want more. We believe in small business. I mean, that's really what has built America, and we want people to come to Mississippi, start their business, join businesses, and flourish with us.
Yeah, 100%. And I think we're going to see a mass migration, of course, across the country into areas like Mississippi and Tennessee, like I mentioned. But let me ask you about finance, because a lot of people are aware that the dollar currency is collapsing. And I believe it will collapse to zero at some point. It won't happen immediately, but that's where it's headed. It's losing purchasing power every day. Well, where I am in Texas, we have state legislators that are, in fact, calling for a gold-backed Texas digital currency, which would then be usable by the citizens to keep the economy running should the dollar collapse. Would you support something similar, like a backup emergency Mississippi currency or a gold-backed currency in case the dollar collapsed, so that Mississippi could keep on operating?
Yeah, I would back that. I mean, this central bank digital currency that's being pushed out, it's a lot of large groups out there, probably backed by Soros, but we're seeing in other states where they're trying to sneak this central bank digital currency through, and so we have to stand firm against that. I don't believe that's the way we need to go at all. And but yeah, we need to have something backed. Recently, I met a gentleman from Utah, and he had with him a bill that was really it had gold kind of in the bill pressed together.
The goldbacks.
Yeah, I mean, this is you have to have something there to represent like gold or silver that has a value.
Yeah, I'm familiar with those bills. A friend of mine gave me one of those, and I interviewed the founder of that company. Jeremy is his first name there. But yeah, that's a great example of an actual bill that has gold infused in it. But I'm even talking about Mississippi having a backup plan to launch its own currency if the dollar collapses, or if Washington, D.C. collapses, like what happened to, the former Soviet Union in 1991. Boom, it was over. All of a sudden, all of these regional nation states were on their own. And, Texas, I know, has a plan to keep functioning. I don't know if Mississippi has a plan or Florida has a plan. I don't know. I just think it's a wise thing to take a look at that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you that, we're excited about what Florida's been doing over the last 3 years. And I think Texas at least started out doing a pretty good job. They kind of slipped there a little bit, but yeah, we're going to look at, if I'm governor, I'll definitely look at what Florida's doing and what Texas is doing, and Tennessee. And I hope Arkansas is going to join in with the race here and combine with the new governor, Sarah Huckabee. And also Missouri's been a friend, and we can name other states, but right. We look at Texas and we like Texic, right? And being able to have a state sovereignty. We want to see that in Mississippi as well. The 10th Amendment, the Constitution is about states' rights. And so we want to be there as a strong state and have state rights. And so, yeah, I mean, if we're going to lose our currency and the dollar is going to fade away, then we need to be prepared to have our citizens there with something that's substantial to hold their value.
Would you also, if you were governor and you would bring in a new attorney general, would you seek, would you investigate some of the COVID crimes that have taken place in the state of Mississippi?
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. And that's really why I got in the race to begin with. We started a group, of course, a year ago, Mississippi Against Mandates. And I've been a doctor here for 25 years. And so we're pushing back for against this whole medical tyranny. The first thing I'll do is Dr. Peter McCullough has agreed to be my Surgeon General.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah, that is.
Huge. But, I met him back in 21. He came to the state. He was recently here again in February this year, and we had a roundtable hearing at our state capitol. And we had about 25 speakers there. He led it with myself and him. And then we had Dr. Chancey Jung Lindsay from Texas. We had Jim Thorpe. We had just a whole lot of doctors there. Dr. Ben Marble was there with us. He's a friend of mine in Florida. And we had 8 vaccine injured folks there. We had media coverage, but, they didn't cover any of the vaccine injured. They cut them out. You can go to Epoch Times and find the full story there. But yeah, Dr. Peter McCullough will be my Surgeon General. And from day one, we'll get together a blue ribbon committee. We'll put a lot of these same doctors, scientists, public health officials on there, and we'll push back. We'll investigate these pharmaceutical industry, Moderna, Pfizer, J&J, for these COVID vaccines, because they knew they were not safe or effective. They had the data, they had the studies, but they pushed them anyway, and they lied. And so this is a consumer fraud. This is the low-hanging fruit. We believe we can go after them through our AG department. Of course, we would like to ultimately see Nuremberg trials. We'd like to see these government officials, these government doctors, really, that push these protocols, not only on the national level, Dr. Fauci, but they did it right here in our state on a local level, the government doctors. So, but we're going to start somewhere. We're going to start with the pharmaceutical industry. We're also going to have, we're going to make it such that there's never can be any unconstitutional emergency powers pushed on Mississippi. And they're not done. This was a test run, and we believe we have to be very careful. Next month, the World Health Organization is looking to put together something that would call it an emergency at any given time for really any given reason.
That's right.
A climate, catastrophe, or what they would call. But so we're going to stand firm. We're going to also do autopsies on anybody that dies suddenly in Mississippi that's been vaccinated. They all need autopsies. So we're going to be fighting hard in this, fighting back on this medical freedom. That's really what we want. We want informed consent for patients. Patients should not have died in the hospital alone and on remdesivir. This is something we're keeping very close contact with around the country. I know recently you may have heard lawyer on remdesivir is pushing back. He's kind of won a little step there in California. He's pushing they didn't give informed consent, right? Even though the PrEP Act covers a lot of liability, there's other ways to get around this, and so we're going to be pushing like other states, other lawyers, and bring them here, and we're going to push back.
Dr. Witcher, based on everything that you've already said here, it's clear that you're not going to get any support from the corporate media, which is beholden to pharmaceutical interests and globalist interests. And I think the corporate media wants to see America destroyed. in lots of ways, including having our borders overrun, which is happening in Texas. But for you to have an honest shot at this and get the publicity that you need, obviously it's going to have to be grassroots support. So talk to our viewers now about what people can do to help you. I mean, obviously probably donations are part of that, but overall, what can people do to help you get this word out so that, because I think if Mississippi could hear you, you could win this. The question is going to be getting the word out about you and what you believe in. How can people help?
Yeah, Mike, that's absolutely right. I can win this. We only have 3 months left. I mean, the election is August the 8th. That's the primary, and then the general is November 7th. But I can definitely win it. It's the current governor and myself on the Republican ticket. There's one other gentleman, but he's not in the race. So I'm in the race, and we can win. And like I said, I've been in Mississippi for all my life, born and raised. I have lots of family and friends in Mississippi. I've worked in 15 or 20 different hospital settings throughout Mississippi. Know many people, and so it's a matter of just getting the word out. Many people don't know I'm running for governor, and so we have to get the word out. And we're crisscrossing the state. I'm speaking to many groups weekly, or 2, 3, 4 times a week. But what we really need is we need to get on that last month, we're going to probably have to do TV ads. And that's where the money comes in, to blanket the state with some TV ads. And so that's really what it boils down to. We need more money. We're getting donations, and we're really asking, like Mike said, I'm not going to get any big donations from these special interest groups. The Mississippi Hospital Association, for example, just last week gave the Democratic candidate $250,000.
Wow.
Okay, so that kind of money is not coming to me. I'm getting donations from grassroots folks, people that I've been grouped with over the last year and a half with Mississippi Against Mandates. That $10, $20, $100 donation. We just need more of them, and so we can get the word out, and we can win. Our current governor is not a popular governor. You can look him up. He did some things. Not only he didn't push back hard enough against the medical lockdowns, but also he took the flag away from Mississippians. And no matter what side of the flag issue you're on, that's been a battle for all of my life. And the way it was taken away is when, if you remember back in 2020, George Floyd and the I Can't Breathe and the BLM riots that were all over, when everybody else was locked down, nobody could supposed to be only 10 people could gather, but yet they were having huge gatherings all over the United States. Our governor basically immediately, he just took the flag away.
That's crazy.
He didn't ask the people. He didn't ask for a vote. He just took it away and said, "Here, vote on a new design." So he's got about 20 to 30% of his constituents that voted for him will never vote for him just over that issue. So yeah, we can win. We need just over 50% of the vote in the primary. And so if you can, I need all the prayers I can get, because it's like Mike said, I don't think that, they're not going to stop, but this whole agenda, it's not just to destroy our country, but it's to destroy our whole way of life, including, take away our God. I believe God founded this country with a few good men. And I believe that's why we've been blessed, because good Americans all over America, but certainly here in Mississippi in the Bible Belt, we've held the Bible as our standard by which we live by. And we've been blessed. But so they're trying to take all that away. And we're just not going to stand for that here in Mississippi. And so I'm calling on all patriots that love God, love their country, love their family, love their flag, to come together and just give whatever you can, $10, $20, whatever you can. And that'll help us push over and really get the word out.
All right. And they can make those donations at your website, witcher4governor.com. Yeah, I see the donation link there. Okay. That's excellent. Donate now. Okay. That's really critical, folks. And I want to thank you, Dr. Witcher, for having the courage to stand up, because it's easy to sit back and do nothing, but then you lose your country, just like you lost your flag. And if they take away the flag, that means that they can take away everything. They can take away your history, your culture, your economic viability. They can take away your life, which is exactly what happened during COVID. They were murdering people, in my opinion, in lots of different ways. So we've got to get you good support. For those watching, feel free to repost this video, share it, post about it on social media. There'll be a copy of this posted on Rumble and BitChute also, since you currently can't share Brighteon videos on Twitter because Elon Musk is still censoring us there, unbelievably. But Dr. Witcher, any final thoughts before we wrap this up today?
No, I just appreciate you having me on, Mike. Just so honored to be here with you. We have so many people here in Mississippi that love you, watch you. We watch you. We nicknamed you not the Health Ranger here in Mississippi. We one of our doctors nicknamed you the Death Ranger. If you really want to know the worst case scenario, we watch Mike.
I'm not sure I like that nickname. But I get it.
Yeah.
Well, but the thing is, I always try to give people solutions as well as you are doing. You're taking a constructive role, but honestly, people are dying right now. Millions of people are dying all over the world because of this, and not everybody's going to make it. So yeah, death is already upon us. We have to survive this, and we need each other. We need God in our lives. We need the truth. We need freedom of speech, and we need people like you, Dr. Witcher. So thank you for all your time today.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And best to you. August 8th is the primary voting day there in Mississippi. So for all of you watching in Mississippi, get the word out, share this video, and donate to his campaign. If you can spare a few bucks, that's the only way he's going to get funding in order to have a shot at this. And we need people like Dr. Witcher with courage and humanity to turn this country around state by state. So again, thank you once again, Dr. Witcher. It's been a pleasure speaking with you today.
Yes, thank you, Mike.
All right. And thank all of you for watching. I'm Mike Adams, of course, the founder of Brighteon.com. And look, I built this platform so we can have conversations like this. Uncensored, we tell you the truth, we say it like it is, we give you the good news and the bad news, whatever it is. That's why maybe I got that nickname in Mississippi. Sometimes it's bad news, folks, but I'm not going to hold back and kind of water it down. I'm going to tell it the way it is. And we better fight now, peacefully, lawfully, through elections to take our country back, or we're going to lose it. So thank all of you for watching today here on Brighteon.com. And check my channel on Brighteon for more interviews and podcasts with other freedom-loving patriots like Dr. Witcher. Take care, everybody. God bless America. I've got a food science, a contamination update here for you that I think you'll find fascinating. And I fully understand that maybe for everybody, food isn't the number one priority because banks are collapsing, the dollar's losing value. World War III seems to be we're on the verge of that with Russia and so on. I know there's a lot of big things going on, but food is something you eat every day. And it turns out that food is a minefield, kind of like a battlefield. You never know if you're going to step on a mine. And if you don't do testing of the food supply, then you just don't know what you're going to get. And a good example of that is today, I was informed by one of my analysts that's running the glyphosate method that they found 650 plus parts per billion of glyphosate in organic black beans. And the reason they brought this to my attention was because, this is a potential vendor that we had not worked with before with black beans, and we were seeing if their products are clean or what have you. And normally we don't find high glyphosate in organic beans or legumes or vegetables and so on. Organic usually means low glyphosate, as it should, because glyphosate's not allowed to be used on organic crops. But for whatever reason, this batch had crazy high, like the highest we've ever seen in beans. 650 nanograms per milliliter, essentially, which is 650 parts per billion. And understand that glyphosate is something that can be biologically active at very low parts per billion concentration in your blood. And although I'm not concerned about single-digit parts per billion in beer or something, or even if there's 10 parts per billion in beer, hopefully you're not drinking so much beer that you're getting a large mass of glyphosate. But for something like beans, especially black beans that people can eat in pretty large quantities and routine quantities, without being an alcoholic, you can still eat a lot of beans. So when I start to see values of like even 50 parts per billion in a routine food that people can eat on a daily basis, then, I start getting concerned. So obviously we rejected this lot of the black beans. Thing is, not only was it organic, the country of origin was also the United States. So okay, black beans are not GMO crops. There are no GMO black beans, to my knowledge. I've never heard of anything like that. So what is all the glyphosate, which is an herbicide, obviously, what's it doing in the black beans? And how did it end up in organic black beans? And there are really only a couple of answers to that, frankly. One of them is that they sprayed the black bean crop with glyphosate as a desiccant to dry it more quickly in the field in order to accelerate the harvest time. However, and that's done on wheat crops, that's done on all kinds of beans and legumes and grains and oats. There's a lot of glyphosate that's lurking in oats for that very reason, by the way. A lot of farmers just spray the oat field with glyphosate to kill it and then harvest it. They do that. It's a desiccant for oats. That tells me that there's a possibility that somebody cheated, or that they were irrigating the black bean crops using water that was contaminated with glyphosate because of spraying upstream. So those are the two possibilities, the two most likely possibilities. This level of glyphosate in the black beans cannot come from just spraying a crop adjacent and just having wind drift of glyphosate into the black beans. I don't think that that's the origin of this. This is either they sprayed the black beans directly, which would be a violation of USDA organic standards, which means somebody's committing, bean fraud. The bean counters have committed bean fraud, or they're using irrigation water, like I said, from upstream, where somebody's been dumping loads of glyphosate on other crops upstream, and then maybe it rained, and then somehow that water was used to irrigate the black beans. That's a possibility. But I think the more likely possibility is they just sprayed the crops. And I would expect a lot of organic fraud out of certain countries, such as China, but not typically in the United States. So the fact that we're seeing this as a US sourced product that is certified organic and high glyphosate, this just reinforces the fact that the food landscape is a minefield. And anybody who's not doing the testing, all the other companies that are selling food at grocery stores or survival food companies or whatever, that's not even bothering with organic or bothering with lab testing, at some point you're going to get a batch that's crazy high glyphosate or crazy high lead or crazy high arsenic or crazy high aflatoxins. If you're not doing the testing, you just don't know. Bottom line, it's the raw truth. I know not everybody wants to hear that because maybe they bought a bunch of food that was never tested and they want to think it's okay. It might not be okay. It might be loaded with glyphosate, even if it's organic. And we've seen high lead in organic products too, because of course the organic certification program doesn't even test for lead. Frankly, the organic certification label, it doesn't even test for glyphosate. It just says you can't use it. And then they do on-site inspections of farms, and they make you sign statements if you're a farmer that you're not using glyphosate on these crops. And then they take a look at your barn. If they see a bunch of glyphosate laying around, they might ask more questions. But even the USDA organic program does not test farm products for glyphosate. There's not a glyphosate testing mechanism in the organic certification program. There's not a heavy metals testing. There's not aflatoxin testing. There's not dioxin testing. There's no herbicide, pesticide testing, even for organophosphates or anything else. None of that is tested under USDA organic. I'm not saying that the program is worthless. They work in other ways, such as making you prove where you got the raw materials from, where did you buy the seeds from, where did you buy the starters from, where did you buy your fertilizer from, all these kinds of things. There are other ways, but I'm just saying they don't test the final product. So it is, in fact, very possible to get a high glyphosate batch of food or a high heavy metals batch of food. And so when you go out to eat, when you shop at the grocery store, when you buy retail products, even preparedness or storable survival food, what have you, even if it's organic, but especially if it's not organic, there's no way to know when you're hitting a landmine of high glyphosate or high lead or what have you. And that's why it's critical, number one, to make sure that you buy from sources that you trust, and if you can, buy from sources that are doing the testing and not just trusting the certification from their supplier, which is what most people do. It's like, oh, they told us it's all good, and then we trusted it, and then we sold. No, like we've learned over the years, that's never, you can't trust certificates from suppliers, that you have to retest it yourself. Or maybe in addition to that, you need detox. And what I mean by detox are all the natural daily detox things that work, like, drinking more water, sweating more. You need good kidney function. You need good liver function. So you need liver support. And what are all the herbs and nutrients that support your liver? Licorice root and dandelion root and what have you. What are the things that support your kidneys? Corn silk tea and chanca piedra for, eliminating kidney stones and all kinds of things. There's urinary tract cleansing, all kinds of things. And it is important to do these things because you never know when you're going to ingest some landmine of something really, really toxic. And also, by the way, when it comes to heavy metals toxicity, make sure that you eat things that contain a significant portion of natural fruit fiber. Because I don't know if you recall this, but in all of our simulation testing years ago of digestion simulations, and then testing the results of what eliminated heavy metals, one of the best answers, not the only answer, but one really good answer, was fruit fiber. Fiber from citrus fruit, fiber from even just apples and pears, fiber from any kind of fruit, including grapefruit fiber, by the way. And you can take that as a supplement. So if you go out to eat and you don't know what's in the food, and I go out to eat sometimes too, I don't know what's in the food, guess what? I'm taking fruit fiber. I'm taking vitamin C. I'm taking liver protection herbs. I'm making sure that I have in advance that I'm consuming things that will help protect me against the toxicity that may be lurking in the food that you can't see, that you don't know is there, and nobody's even testing for. So you add this up over 10 or 20 years, you do the right things here like I'm talking about, you're going to have far lower exposure to all of these toxic chemicals, which means you have a far lower risk of cancer, you have less exposure to heavy metals, you have less exposure to dioxins, on and on. All of this matters. It adds up over the years. If you want a clean body, clean blood, clean mind, clean liver, clean kidneys, clean heart, clean arteries, all of it, a neurological system that functions, a reproductive system that functions, an immune system that functions, it's about toxin avoidance and elimination. And frankly, testing's the only way to know what's in there, because you can't look at it and just say, oh yeah, gosh, I see the glyphosate. No, it doesn't work that way. It's invisible. You have to have an instrument. So there we go. Fascinating finding. If you want clean food that is tested, obviously you can support us, healthrangerstore.com. And we also offer, by the way, detoxification superfood supplements like chlorella and spirulina that themselves are lab tested. And most of those are certified organic, not every single variety, because aquaculture is different than agriculture. And all those single cell microalgae, they're all grown in aquaculture environment, which doesn't use pesticides or herbicides, because obviously there are no weeds that grow in aquaculture. Anyway, it's a complex story, but you can check it all out at healthrangerstore.com. Thank you for listening. Mike Adams here, the Health Ranger, naturalnews.com also. Take care. A global reset is coming, and that's why I've recorded a new 9-hour audiobook. It's called The Global Reset Survival Guide. You can download it for free by subscribing to the naturalnews.com email newsletter, which is also free. I'll describe how the monetary system fails. I also cover emergency medicine and first aid and what to buy to help you avoid infections. So download this guide. It's free. It's my gift to you simply because I want like-minded people to survive.